We are super excited to welcome you to Casa Brown today. I'm Paige Dana.
Hi, I'm Julien Howsepian, winemaker, Casa Brown.
Yep. So we are getting a little backfeed noise for someone in the audience to hear us, but for you guys, we are celebrating Russian River Valley right now. You probably got your save the date email for the new release coming up. So we're really excited to have everyone join us today. We did this last spring and we had a great time. So please put your questions in the chat. We would love to hear from you. We want to make this a conversation and have a good time. If you are tasting along with us today, just so you know what we open to taste, we have our Russian River Valley Pinot Noir in 23. We will be tasting the new release of El Diablo, so 2023, which you won't have in your cellar, but if you're feeling like some Chardonnay and you have an older vintage, please open it up. We have our 2020 Winners Circle and our 2019 Treehouse. So for the Russian River Valley. And then just a couple of notes. We're super excited. One of the reasons that we're tasting through Russian River Valley today is that the release that does open on Tuesday, the 26th, is going to feature all of our Russian River Valley wines. So we haven't quite featured our wines this way before, but you will see exclusively wines from the Russian River Valley and across all of the wines we make. So single vineyards or appellation wines. We're really excited to do some more storytelling and focusing around this region, which is also our home where we're sitting right now. And then looking ahead in early spring, you'll with our Sonoma Coast wine, Santa Lucia Highlands, Santa Rita, Anderson Valley. And then this time again next year, we'll be back to Russian River. So that's kind of the journey we're taking right now. And then you'll also see some of our smaller special releases like our Burgundy release, which you'll see on September 30th of this. Some of you participated in our Rare Gems release this past late spring, so we still plan to keep moving forward with things like that as well. But yeah, one of the reasons we're really excited to do this is it gives Julien the chance to really focus on presenting the wines he thinks how they show best. So I'm going to kick it off to you to talk a little bit about that, Julien.
Yeah. So this is actually great. I think focusing on a single region is really important. To be able to mix our appellation wines alongside our single vineyard wines in a single offering is really exciting. And it allows us a little bit more time to age the wine in bottle for you. That way, when the wines arrive at your doorstep, they are in that much better shape for you to enjoy. So we're excited. Something I've been actually lobbying for a long, long time, but it's been just really, really difficult to pick the perfect opportunity for us to do so. And so a little bit different than the past. And like Paige mentioned, in the spring, we'll be selling our Sonoma Coast, Appellation plus single vineyards, as well as Santa Lucia Highlands, Santa Rita Hills, Anderson Valley. So really excited. And this is kind of fun too, because we have a little mini vertical of Russian River to walk through. We ran through it yesterday with the team and was really, really impressed with not only the consistency, but just the wines were aging slowly, very gracefully. It's only a couple years, of course, but a very good sign of things to come in terms of how long they could age if you're today. So that's fun, and we're excited to share this experience with you.
Yeah. And I think like with the vertical, which for in some of your offers, you'll see a vertical of the Russian River Valley and the 116. A question that I get a lot, at least in the tasting room, but I think we get this in seminars when we're talking is when should I drink the wine? And it's really fun to try them side by side because I think that also gives you an idea of what your preference is. Because like the 23, obviously a younger wine, the 21 isn't that much older, but is showing a little bit more age. So it can start to kind of guide your preferences and while you're learning. And if you really love the wines, right, then you can open the 21 now and know you can lay down the 23. We did get a quick question in there. Yes, there is a fire in Calistoga right now. So we are luckily very safe here. All of our counterparts throughout the portfolio are safe, but we're obviously closely monitoring the situation. And the really amazing fire crews that we have in Northern California are all over it. So thank you for bringing that up. We are sending our thoughts and prayers and anything we can do there. And we'll obviously keep people up to date if anything changes. So thank you for asking. But we'll be out soon, and we're doing well here. So thank you for checking in.
Yeah, and I would say also, thankfully, it's not windy.
Yeah,
It's warm, it's cooling off, but it's not windy, so it's a not one of those situations where things get out of hand really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of remote, it's in the hills, thankfully, not too close to too many people, and we're hoping that it gets resolved quickly.
Yeah. So thank you for checking in. We really appreciate that. Great. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the Russian River Valley. We are really lucky to be in an area. I think about this every day. I'm very lucky. My commute, I think you and I have a similar commute to work down Route 116, which is what our 116 Chardonnay is named for, through the vineyards. And in the morning, it's cold and there's fog. I mean, I think this morning it was even in the 50s. It's currently 95 at the winery. So you get that huge, which is really great for the wine.
Yes. Yeah, Russian River is the birthplace of Costa Brown. Back in 1997, Dan Costa and Michael Brown were working at the same restaurant in Santa Rosa, and they realized they had a shared dream, intoxicated with the hustle and bustle as the harvest season started, all the action in the vineyards, the fruit getting loaded on the trucks, driving to all these different wineries. And so they fell in love with the feeling and the energy of harvest way back then in the mid 90s. And then they started making wine. So the very first grapes that they purchased was a half a ton of Pinot Noir from Russian River Valley. And of course, that was in 1997. And in 1999, they went commercial. And they made their first Pinot Noir actually in 2000, because the first wine that they made in 1999 is Sauvignon Blanc. But then they switched their focus to Pinot Noir. But we've been here now for almost 30 years, getting close to 30 years. And there's a lot of really great regions in California, and to be honest, they all have something very special and something unique to be celebrated. I think that Russian River, it does have the marquee reputation in terms of potentially like the best or the most complete wines that come out of here. And I think that for me, it is one of my favorite regions. I do live here; it's home base, and there's something about the influence from the coast. Obviously, most great regions in California, especially, have a cooling impact from the Pacific coast. And Russian River is just this really enchanting series of rolling hills. We're not more than 20 minutes from the beach, and there are days where I'll tell a story that when one time my in-laws were visiting from Louisiana, and it was a beautiful summer day. And we're like, you know what? Let's go to the beach. Let's go barbecue at the beach. And so we load up our car and we drive out there, and we're about halfway through, and I start to notice it's a little bit, cooling down a little bit. And then we're getting a little closer, another 5 minutes drive. And I start to see the fog kind of trying to crest over the hillside. And I'm like, oh no. Come around the bend to the beach, and we are socked in fog. And for me, I was, kicking myself because there's no barbecue on a beach with 50-degree weather and wind. But they were like amazed by how quickly the climate could change in just a 15 or 20-minute drive. And that is kind of part of the charm of the Russian River and the Sonoma Coast too, for that matter. But we're just kind of at arm's length that, we get really warm daytime highs, like Paige mentioned today. It's, early, low 90s. But then again, every evening it cools down. And it cools down to the point where I live in Green Valley at our Kiefer Ranch, actually. And we have a beautiful deck with a nice view, but we don't eat dinner outside very often because it cools down quickly. And we enjoy it. But of course, it's, it's chill. And that's to me, that's nice because I like the natural air conditioning. But for the grapes and for the wine, I think what it does is it gives you a really profound fruit profile, this really pure, crystallized, fresh fruit character. But then it's got all that beautiful balance with crisp acidity because of the cool nights, and a really kind of fresh, style of wine. So I love it. I think that it creates wines that are very polished, very spherical, like no, just like a perfectly smooth, round sphere. Like when I think of Russian River, I see a shape actually more than anything else.
Yeah.
And I love it. And so the other great thing about Russian River is that we have the most amount of single vineyard wines that we produce from the Russian River Valley. So we have Bootlegger's Hill, Juicy Ranch, Kiefer, and Treehouse. And so we blend all of those wines first, and then there's always, 20, maybe 30% of the wine that doesn't make the single vineyard wine. And it's not a matter of quality at that point, because sometimes a great, fermentation from Treehouse Vineyard, which they're all great, sometimes they just don't fit in, right?
Yeah.
They just don't jive they don't play in this sandbox very well, whatever. And that wine will cascade into the Russian River Valley blend. So that means that the Russian River Valley blend is comprised of a lot of our single vineyard wine. So, and then on top of that, where we focus our attention in terms of making our mark and quality is with the fruit program. So we source really, really exceptional vineyards like Moonshine Vineyard, like Ziatoni Vineyard, like Winter Circle, like just, a lot of great vineyards that most people would be thrilled to make a single vineyard wine with it, right? And for us, we are trying to make an exceptional blend, and we're using a lot of really, really good quality vineyards. So, you know, that's the story with Russian River. It's a little bit of the story of how we make our wine in general with the sourcing program and whatnot. But in the end, really exceptional.
Yeah, I was really impressed when I started here, like reading the tech sheets or looking at the fruit coming in, being like, this is what we're using. And I think that it shows in the quality. Like we're gonna, talk about Treehouse and drink it on its own, but it's also in the Russian River Valley wines, and a significant portion sometimes. And I think I see a question about like laying down a Pinot. You're gonna love this answer. It depends. Love giving a really specific answer for you. I think a lot of it is personal preference. So some people really love that bright, fresh, super fruit forward that you have when a Pinot is really youthful. Once you start getting into that kind of 5-year spot, I find, especially with our wines, is when you start to see that evolution into its next phase. So you still have really beautiful fruit, but you start to maybe get some more of those earthy notes. The tannin has started to resolve a little bit more, and you kind of reach another phase. And then some people really love when you move even further, and the wine really starts to, the fruit starts to feel a little bit more either cooked or jammy. You get more of those like toffee leather notes. So the wine will really evolve. Wine is like people. We're really lucky in this region. I would say vintage variation does matter. And 23 was a very cold vintage for us. So you do see that in the wine, but because we have such consistent weather most of the time, we're really able to highlight the sense of place, and you really get to see how the wine is developed without really wondering, like, is this really different because of the age, or is it different because that season was really rainy, or really, insert weather pattern here. For me right now, tasting through, I was tasting while Julien was talking, the 21, 22, and 23 side by side, it almost makes the 23, I'm like, I want to give it a little bit of time because the 21 is so pretty. And these wines for me, a colleague of ours, Erica, who's amazing. You may speak to her on the phone. She described, sitting on a front porch with your friends, just drinking this wine. It's so easy. For me, it brings back memories of those little strawberry candies, that grandma, or at least my grandma had. And you get those notes. Like it's such a pleasurable, like I feel good with these wines. I feel happy. Yeah, it's Russian River sunshine. So it's really special to get to see that. And yeah,
Yeah. For me too, when you taste in a flight, it's always interesting because you see things that you would otherwise not, right? And so, but most wine is definitely not enjoyed in that fashion, right? Most wines are consumed, enjoyed singularly in that moment, in that time. And so, if you drink the 23 today, delicious, wonderful, really nice, crisp, fresh, nice body, round, all the things. But in the flight here, the 20, and for me personally also, I tend to like to add 4 years to the current calendar year. So, or excuse me, I'd like to subtract 4 years. So 2025, go back in time 4 years. The 21 is kind of my sweet spot right now. I love the 22. The 20 is excellent as well, but when you enjoy these wines over years, when you get to that 3 to 4 year mark for me, that's when I think the wines really kind of all the pieces kind of lay down. They find them, they find their groove, they integrate really well, and they've just kind of softened up just enough for me to be kind of that perfect window to drink. But then again, let's be honest, we're always focusing on the more recent vintages, and we're tasting those all the time. We're featuring them all the time, and they're delicious in itself. So again, it is about preference. We meet some people who are like, yeah, I'm on the 16s. And you're like, wow, like
we
you
have
are
a
really
comment right here that says
okay.
just had 2011 and it was fantastic. That's great. Thank you.
I always say, you always got, this is something I learned myself, not something that well, let's just say something I picked up on my wine journey is I decided to start buying wines in threes, right? At least a minimum of three, because therefore you can try one, you can give kind of that first bottle a try when you decide to do that, which will help you decide when to try the second bottle. And then the third bottle is either if you love that second experience, great, go for it. If you can show a little bit of patience, maybe it gets lost in the bottom of the wine fridge or in the closet, wherever you
I hide my wine.
whatever that dark cold spot you have, and you come across that 19 or even something older like a 2011, that's always fun. I did that the other day with the 2020 El Diablo, and I was stunned. I was just like, this wine is so good. I mean, I drank I went and found another one because I wanted to enjoy that. I wanted to do it again. So
when we play around with that here at the winery, I mean, not just in tasting with Julien, if you just here really make a point of opening bottles that have some age on them, so they're not the wines that you just got in your release. And we've had a lot of fun kind of exploring that. Like, well, we've got a case or two of this 2014. Let's see how it's drinking, and we'll pour that this week. So it is a lot of fun to see. We have somebody who just opened a 2019 Russian River last night. And beautiful. The 21, I mean, if we're talking about aging Chardonnay, Bootlegger's Hill Chardonnay, I think is just exceptional. I think that wine is showing so beautifully right now. We just started talking about, you brought up El Diablo is the next wine that we have lined up for us, which is really a special Chardonnay vineyard. Before we totally dive into that, we are offering a vertical of the 116 Chardonnay as well. Nervous about aging Chardonnay, don't be. And there's a question about, does the acid level impact the ageability? Julien can speak more to the technical does. And that's one of the things that white wine ageability is that acid in the wine.
So, some of the things that definitely impact the ageability of any wine is acidity, and in red wine, especially the level of tannin, and just the overall balance. But, those are certainly true. And, they're known to be factors that help a wine age gracefully. But then there are the wines that kind of defy the known, mechanisms, right? And
Those are the magic ones.
those are the magic wines. And so, on paper, yes, acidity certainly does. To be honest, there's a lot of, Syrahs, and there's Cabernets that are way less acidic, and they age pretty well. So it's all about the experience and how the wine transforms. That's kind of the fun part, because it's a little bit of a mysterious, process.
Yeah. We do have some more questions about aging for your buying 3 bottles, first bottle to the second.
Yeah.
For me personally, try and go a year. That's why I have to hide it from myself. I think wine is a lot like people, right? And when you think of like a young wine aging, it's like that awkward teenage phase where like maybe your feet are too big. Right sized again. So it's going in the right direction, but maybe it's a little awkward. So some of it is like, I think here again, learning your personal preference, or if there's something where you're like, it's not quite there yet, but I'm really loving it. Like, even 3 months, the wine will change a lot. And for the decanting question, I don't know about you, Julien, but all of our wines can totally, you can decant them young. The only time I would start getting nervous is if you're dealing with a wine that's like over 15 years old, in which case you just want to handle it really carefully. So you might not want to decant that wine, but everything we're tasting today is only just going to let it, open up, loosen up, get a little.
Yeah, I've actually recently started decanting the younger wines more and more. So I used to be a little bit more of a purist and say, well, how it comes out of the bottle is, how it needs to be. But I'm finding on the first year or two, so the 23s, for example, now, maybe the 22s, a quick pour, and a decanter can be a mason jar. And it does not have to be fancy. And you can pour it from the mason jar if you want to. You could drink it from the mason jar.
He's like, I think you're drinking it from the mason jar. Yeah.
Obviously, it's better to drink in a wine glass. So decanting, it certainly helps, and most times it won't hurt it. I don't think at all, unless it's getting into the older wines. It gets a little tricky when it's older because some can help it, but decant away. That's not fun.
And decant your whites too, right? Like the same reason you decant a red, to get more oxygen flowing through it to help wake it up. Chardonnay is happy with that process as well. Don't be shy. Have fun. It's going to take a lot to mess it up. Like, I think sometimes we get really precious about our wine, and yes, these are beautiful wines that we want to celebrate, but like, we don't have to be like so worried. So I invite you to have fun. Bottle, enjoy it, because all of these wines are delicious. So you're not going to have made a mistake if you open it too early.
Yeah. And, real quick, should we kind of run through the vintages and the wines a little bit?
Sure.
21?
Yeah.
Okay. So, 21 was a fantastic vintage. It was a really smooth growing season. It was a year in which it was kind of one of those easier vintages from a production standpoint. Things played out the way it was meant to be in terms of like the Russian River rains first, and then you have a little bit of San Lucia and Santa Rita, and then Sonoma Coast and the Sun Valley. So it was spread out, and so from a winemaking perspective, it was smooth.
Yeah.
Which is great. Which sometimes can influence the how much vintage. And I held out my reservations for a while. You can latch onto it as a great vintage, but the wines turned out really, really good in 2021. Love the 21s. And the 22s, a little bit of a different story in terms of how difficult it was to make the wines. It was a little bit more challenging, but the wines again turned out very good. One of the benefits of making wine is that we do have vintage variation, and we have warm years and cold years and wet years. But the reality is the wines are really, and they kind of occupy just a great little band of greatness. It doesn't ever really go, it doesn't really ever dip
No.
out of that. And so even on 22, which was a difficult year perfect in terms of winemaking, we I think succeeded partially because of just I don't know, determined, but also like falling back on the great vineyards, without great vineyards, you can't make great wine. That is a standard saying that we put out quite a bit. On years like 2022, it proved itself again, right? It really, really did. And that wine is just a touch riper, a little bit rounder, a little bit softer. Maybe even I would say if you were to compare these three vintages, I would probably 22 first, and then the 21 and the 23. So, but I love the 2022. We were tasting it yesterday, and it was actually remarkable how consistent it was. And you have to be really paying attention to even a noticeable difference, right? I mean, the wines are all pure in a classic way. But 2022 and then 2023, which is our current release, that was a challenging year also, but very, very cold. So very long season. And on paper, that's awesome. Everyone that. But then kind of August and September rolled around and it was like still pretty cold, still pretty foggy. And the grapes weren't really ripe. And we're kind of like, okay, this is gonna get a little dicey here at the end. But we were
He's speaking about it really calmly right now, but I remember walking to Julian's office in October. We have to pick. The grapes aren't ready. We have to pick. There was he's like, we can't be picking at Halloween.
Yes.
He's very calm now. The wine turned out great. But
yeah. You got the interns here, you got the team ready, everyone's ready to roll. But the grapes are ready to come off the vine. So you gotta wait. And we were patient, we waited, and we were, I guess, in a sense, a little bit lucky. We did get a nice little heat spike, like a heat wave, where we finally saw some sun in the first week of October, and that just gave the vines everything it needed to get over the finish line. And the results are really, really good. Very deep, very soft, supple, long wines, fresh, kind of delicate fruit. Really, really remarkable. But again, every vintage had still a story, and it's worth sharing kind of what goes on behind the scenes, in my opinion. And the Chardonnays that we're also offering in a vertical, similar kind of thing, right? 21, very bright, very fresh, very precise, long wine. Really kind of stole the show from yesterday's tasting, I think. 21, 116. And then the 22, really good, very pure, a little bit softer, a little bit richer. And then the 23 was the young, kind of the up and comer, ready to go, kind of fighting for its spot on the podium. And loved it too. So great set of wines, 21 to 23. It's really unique. It's the first time we've offered a little vertical like this, and I think it's gonna be fun to play around that.
Yeah.
So
we do have a comment of someone who's opening a 2019 Chardonnay right now, which the 116, I love that vintage, so I hope you're enjoying it. And here again, Chardonnay can age, don't be scared. And then we have a couple other questions popping up here. Julien, can we tour the vineyards? Not yet. I'm going to say yet. I don't have an answer for you, but it is a question for me. It is something that we're exploring how we can make that happen. One of the things that's so special about Kosta Browne is the relationships that we've built with our grower partners. So the vast majority of the wine that we make from the very beginning to today is with these really phenomenal vineyards and the people that grow and manage those grapes. And so part of it is working with them. If you visited us, obviously you're visiting at the winery, not in a vineyard. But it is something we'd really love to be able to offer. So we'll keep letting us know that that's something that you're interested in, so we can keep developing that and making those notes when we are ready to start maybe doing something like that out in the vines. We can let you know. And do we want to talk about climate change while we talk about Chardonnay?
Yeah.
We have what do we see the long-term effect of climate change on the wine industry, and what varieties are more effective than others? So that's a great question.
Yeah.
And someone is also drinking the Laguna Valdez 2018 Observations Chardonnay, which, yes, here again, I will be on my soapbox saying Chardonnay can age. That wine is phenomenal. It's still phenomenal. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Ray, because I absolutely adore that wine.
Okay, so I'll take the climate change question real quick. So yeah, I mean, there is a reality that we're observing some changes in the way that the vineyards are adapting and they're behaving in the changing climate. And what that means, I think, more than anything, is that we're seeing extreme events, whether it's hot, cold, something bizarre or weird happening. We're seeing that. So the one benefit that we have, to be perfectly honest, in California, especially in the Pinot land, is that we are within close enough proximity to the coast where the Pacific Ocean in the northern part of the state, especially, it's very cold. It is not necessarily a place that you come and go swimming in the ocean. Some people do, of course. Usually they're younger than 15 or 18 years old.
Yep.
And then most of the people have wetsuits.
Mm-hmm.
The surfers are wearing wetsuits. Some people who are boogie boarding are wearing wetsuits. So it's a cold, freezing, natural cooling system that exists out there. And that's where the fog comes in. And that's where all that cold air and that wind and that breeze, all that stuff helps moderate our climate.
Yep.
Really, really well. So when we do have these big heat waves, where we get to 92, 95 degrees at times, at night it cools down, right? And sometimes it doesn't happen, but for the most part it does. But there are some regions that are more landlocked and more continental climates that I think probably have a harder time with that. Burgundy is kind of going through a lot of different seasons in terms of hot and cold, and things that are a little bit unusual. Usually they might get a vintage like that once every 7 or 8 years, and now it seems like every 2 or 3 years they're getting something extreme. So yeah, but vines are resilient. They have been alive and around, and they're very resilient, and they find ways to do, to survive. There's vineyard practices that we can adapt. There's maybe in years to come we'll be planting different training systems, where right now most vineyards in the North Coast are vertical shoot positioning, and they're trying to attract as much light as possible. Maybe we'll go back to more of a sprawl that shades the plants a little bit more and creates a cover, and it cools the earth. It cools the little microclimate inside the fruit zone. So there's lots of little things like that we're thinking about. People are doing micro misters in terms of just trying to keep that area a little bit cooler than it would be otherwise. So we're trying to learn just as quickly as this is changing.
And I think we talk about that, right? Like farming practices with our growing partners, like what's best for the whole ecosystem, what we're doing in the winery to do our best to, have a positive impact. So it's a great question. It's something we're definitely aware of. But as Julien said, for us today, we're really lucky to be a coastal growing region, which in general, coastal growing regions for other wines as well are going to be a little safer, probably. Yeah. And we do have a couple questions. 2016 Bootlegger Pinot, beautiful wine. I think the 2016s are showing spectacularly right now. So if you're looking for a special occasion to open it, I would say open it. It can probably go a little bit longer if you like wines with a little bit more of those like earthy, leathery notes. But right now, I think it's really, everything's really integrated. It's soft, it's plush. It's just a really pleasurable wine that would be beautiful with a lot of different meals. Yeah.
16 was a great year. I had another question about a 16 treehouse coming up, but it was a year in which we really elevated our game in terms of winemaking. Behind us, you can maybe see from your screen, we're sitting in front of a beautiful fermentation hall that has 20 concrete fermenters, all small, and another 14 French oak open top fermenters. 2016, those were all new. And that was when we really kind of said, okay, how can we make these wines better? And we invested in things such as this. We also that year got a state-of-the-art processing line. So all the fruit, a destemmer, and an optical sorter. So we transitioned from a hand sorting processing method, which is great and kind of tried and true, but also not without its limitations. And the new line is just like.
And for that, we have a question about destemming versus whole cluster. We do both. So the optical sorter has to be destemmed, correct?
Yes. So the optical, when we evaluates the integrity of the skins, the color of the skins, it detects if there's mold or if there's, some grapes have. If you looked at it real quickly, you wouldn't notice, but if you look really closely, you'd see that the skin is actually very opaque and thin. And that is a berry that has, lacks skin development. And it would basically rejects all the bad stuff at a berry by berry level. And what it lets through is a really pure, all the best berries. So we do see pretty significant losses from that process. But what it does is it creates a very, very pure wine.
So when do you choose to do a whole cluster for that process? Because we do use whole cluster as well. We do a combination. So
yep. So most wines see a little bit of whole cluster, and what we do is we remove the optical sorter and the destemmer from the line. We slow things down a little bit. We do hand sorting at that point, and in the end, we do a lot of fermentations that are a whole bunch. It's on the top of the tank. So we do the bottom with destem, and then we do the top with whole cluster, which we found to be a really, really effective way to manage the tannins and make a really soft kind of extraction. And then in the end, when the blending process takes place, we might have 5, say, groups of wines that have no whole cluster, and you have one that's, say, 40% whole cluster. And the way that the blend kind of works out, that 40% in the blend ends up representing usually less than 10%. But that 10%, you might not notice it, which is the intention. We don't want it to be evident that there's whole cluster, but there's structure, and there's just a little bit more padding on the wine, and that's another thing that kind of helps with the aging. So we're kind of tucking in the whole cluster in a really neat, concise way. That's because whole cluster can be pretty obnoxious. For me at least, it can be cool, it can be nice, but if it's green, it's not, it's not Costa Brown. Let's just put it that way. I can get down on a green stemmy wine. I do. But if it came out of a Costa Brown bottle, I'd be very disappointed because that's just not what anyone expects from us. So tucking it in nicely, giving it a little bit more of an element, a little bit more structure is kind of the intention behind the whole cluster.
I saw something pop up about yeast. We're in what we call a native fermentation house, so we do not inoculate. We spontaneous fermentation, and we're really lucky that the yeasts that are coming into our facility and live in our facility make these really beautiful wines. So I hope that answered your question. And then there's also a question about comparing our wine to other wines and produced in our area. I think, one of the really unique things about Costa Brown, and one of the reasons I love working here is I mean, we're surrounded by phenomenal Pinot Noir producers, right? Like it's an embarrassment of riches. It's so easy to say, like, go up the road and visit this producer. We are in really close contact with the fellow wineries in the area. So we love supporting each other. I think one of the unique things for us is we only make Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And then we also do source from all over California and now Burgundy. And that is a little bit more rare. So the fact that we've been making wine in the San Lucia Highlands since what, 2006, 2005. So almost as long as we've been in Russian River Valley. We're working in Santa Rita Hills, we're working in Anderson Valley. So it's this real exploration of searching out Pinot in the places that Pinot grows best. And getting to have that kind of plethora of choices and things to look at. And also just an embarrassment of riches right here in the Russian River Valley. I mean, all the wines we're talking about today are, a stone's throw from where we're sitting. So I would say, taste us side by side, find your favorites. I mean, it really is such a beautiful wine region to get to work in with these really amazing people. So that is that's how I'd answer that. And we're at 2:40, so we should talk about our single vineyard Pinots a little bit, but you can answer the question.
Well, I was just going to add something because I just wrapped up an amazing tasting with Chris Costello, and he was one of the founders of Casa Brown. Dan Casa, Michael Brown, Chris Costello. And we were trading stories of access and how that whole situation went down. And he was like, "You guys have no idea." He kind of looked at me, he's like, you have it easy now. Because back in the day, in the early days of Casa Brown, 02, 03, 04, 05, Casa Brown didn't have a reputation. There was no street cred. There was no story, like recognition quite yet. I mean, they were getting recognition, but certainly 03, 04, like who? Like Michael Brown, Dan, I'm sorry, who are you guys? I don't know. I'm not sure we're gonna sell you grapes. Fast forward 20 years, people pick up the phone call, and that's a gift that our founders gave to us in terms of paving a way and to explore and get access to some of the best fruit. So we're very, very thankful for that, and I wanted to add that because it just kind of happened.
Oh, absolutely. And it's we are very lucky, right? Like we get access, we have the ability to work with these amazing producers. And there's a question, we have a question of, you're new to Casa Brown, should you try Pinot or Chard first? Love that question. I'm going to say both. We are historically known for Pinot Noir. That's how we started. Chardonnay, came a little bit later in the journey. And as anyone who works here can tell you, I love our Chardonnay. Julien makes phenomenal Chardonnay. So if you like Chardonnay, this is definitely one worth trying. And give us a call. When you get your offer on Tuesday, like we love to hear from you. So if you have more specific questions that we can't answer you right now because it's a chat and us, we'd love to talk to you. And everybody on the team answers the phone. So it could be me, it could be one of our member services people, probably won't be Julien. He'll be making wine. But you to us, and we do really love to hear from you. There is a question about what's our percentage of stainless versus concrete and oak, and we do really use all three. Did we use all three with the treehouse, Julien? This year?
2019, I would think, I actually don't think we had any here. Long story, but in general, what we do is you learn a little bit by trial and error. First of all, I should say, we focus the concrete and the oak on single vineyard fruit, right? When we can and it's convenient and there's a plethora of availability, like for example, at the beginning or the end of the vintage, we use the concrete oak, as much as we can. When it gets into crunch time, we're really trying to preserve the availability for single vineyard fruit. Now, as we mentioned earlier, single vineyard fruit often waterfalls into the blends, right? And so sometimes we learn that certain vineyards work better in one versus the other. So for example, bootleggers, I actually think stainless steel is the best fit. I've just kind of noticed that over the years of like, I've always really gravitated toward the stainless steel fermentations. Maybe the bootleggers already has that really nice, soft, wide kind of breadth of texture. Whereas other vineyards like, Treehouse are excellent in concrete and wood. And so we kind of split that. But we pick a vineyard, Treehouse, for example, it might be 30 tons. These tanks are 3 to 5 ton fermenters. So that means we end up with 6, 7, 8 different fermentations. And when we blend, we don't assign preference to any single lot. We took a look at those 8 different what we call barrel groups, because fermentation becomes a groups of barrels, and we blend them kind of without trying to force a certain group of barrels or 2 or 3 into a blend. Because if we taste a barrel group individually, we'd be like, this barrel group is insane. Like this has got to be the center point of the wine.
Right.
And then you start to build around it. Sometimes it doesn't work, right? So we let the kind of the dominoes fall naturally. And so the blends themselves, they are, the wines kind of, in a way they tell us in a way what, and I sometimes consider myself the grape. I'm not a grape whisperer or a wine whisperer, but like I try to interpret the best expression. So, I have a team, of course, that's, helping with all of that. But, sometimes the wine's going to help us tell us what to do. And so the blending itself, we've made some wines, can't recall off the top of my head, unfortunately, I'm sorry. I think the 2023 Gas Crown, I think it's 100% oak. And that's really cool. Like it's just the way it turns out. But we definitely position the single vineyards to be more concentrated in fermenters and than the apple.
Yeah.
So
there is a question about whether we make a sparkling wine, and I'm so glad you asked, Lyle. We do. And this year may be the first year some of you are seeing it. It's our 3rd vintage that we're releasing. It will be released this fall because it is Keeper Ranch. So it is Russian River Valley Sparkling. It is a vintage sparkling, which is really exciting. So this will be the 2022 vintage. 2020 is when we started, super, super small production. So that wine never really left the winery. 21 a little bit more, and now we've made enough to really share it. So we're really excited that you all will be seeing the sparkling. It is beautiful. I love all sparkling wine and champagne. We love sparkling wine in this house. So advice on aging KB sparkling wine. I mean, that when we're talking about aging, I think it's similar to how we're speaking about aging in general. I opened one of the 2020s recently. It is still beautiful. I need to hide it from myself so I can see how it develops. But they're beautiful. I mean, when you think of champagne, and we make our sparkling wine in the same method as you make champagne, you can age those wines for a really long time. So I think there again, you're going to get into your preferences of the flavor profile that you like in your sparkling wine. So if you have more questions about that, here again, you can give us a call. We'll be happy to. We could do an entire hour on just sparkling wine. So yes, please come by. We'd love to see you here. If you're not right next door, then give us a call.
Every guest is welcome with a glass of Casa Brown sparkling wine.
Yep, so they are.
Come on by. But yeah, I'm actually a little bit less experienced. I mean, 2 or 3 years of sparkling production. I love the 22 right now. I love the 21.
So
they're all kind of good. They're preserved in a different way. They're under pressure. There's CO2 in the bottle. So it's definitely a different thing. But yeah, really good. I mean, we have Keeper Ranch again. We kind of are lucky with that vineyard in terms of being able to make sparkling wine from there, and it's really a phenomenal wine. So I recommend it. It's good stuff. And then the next question, I'd love to take that one. An unoaked Chardonnay. The short and sweet answer is no. We don't make an unoaked Chardonnay, but the wine is made in a way in which you might not recognize that there's oak on it. I mean, there is new oak on the wine, certainly, low amount, 20-25%. But the reason why I say that you might not recognize it is because it's done very judiciously in terms of the new oak barrels that we're using, the condition of our used barrels that we're working with. And I just get a lot of feedback in the market. We do wine dinners, we got guests here, obviously. And a lot of people taste the smell of the wine. They go, finally, an unoaked Chardonnay. And I go, I had to break it to you, but that's a
It was barrel
100%,
fermented,
100%
yes.
fermented oak. But it's just done, it's just done well. We have really nice barrels, and we're trying to be very delicate on its impact. And some people who consider themselves sensitive to new oak, it flies right over their heads. And I take particular pleasure and joy in converting people back into the Chardonnay
Yeah.
realm because I get a lot of people who go, I'm not interested in trying the Chardonnay, and I go, just give it a try,
Yeah.
and then next thing I know, they're coming back for more.
Mhm.
So love it.
And I think the way I like to think of it with both Chardonnay and Pinot, but I think, people tend to sense it in a different way with Chardonnay. It's like seasoning salt, right? If you need it to make the dish pop. If you use too much, all you're going to taste is the salt. But if you use it correctly, it just enhances the flavor of the food. And I would say I'm not the winemaker, but Julien knows how to use the oak appropriately for that seasoning. I think you see that across our wines. They're incredibly well balanced. I know I work here, but I mean that sincerely.
So actually, I do. I might have lied a little bit. So it's not 100% new stainless steel, but our Chablis
Oh, that's true.
is actually
So we do have an unoaked
mostly
Chardonnay now. Yeah.
aged. It has a little bit of new. It has one new barrel, and the rest of it's all aged in stainless steel. So it's predominantly actually stainless steel with one barrel of new oak, just to give a little piece of smooth.
Yeah.
Little low.
We only have 10 minutes left, so I'm just going to make sure, just checking and there's been a few really great shout outs for, I see someone had a 2016 Kiefer last week. Amazing. Do you produce straw wine? Grace, I don't know do you know? I don't know what that is. I'm so sorry I can't answer your question. And for the person who's asking if we ship to Arkansas for any of our shipping questions, we do ship to almost all states. I don't want to promise something without my shipping guide right in front of me because my team will get upset with me. But if you're getting an offer, it probably can ship to you, or we can help you find the way to get the wine to you. So definitely reach out and we will help you get the wine to your home. And we only have 8 minutes left. So I do want to shout out, there is going to be one wine that it's going to be wish only for most of our members in this offer that has a little bit more age on it. It's our 2020 Winner's Circle. But as a thank you to everyone who joined us today on this call, you will see a guaranteed allocation of that wine. So just to say thank you for being with us today, we wanted to make sure you had something a little bit special. This is a pretty unique wine. It's a vineyard that we've used in our Russian River Valley blend. And in 2020, we felt that it deserved its own labeling. But then we weren't able to do that again in the future. So this is the 2020 Winner's Circle is the only vintage of Winner's Circle. So it's a pretty special wine. And I think it's showing really beautifully.
Really good.
And I think in our last few minutes, I hope we have officially started harvest in the Russian River Valley. We received our first El Diablo fruit yesterday. We do a really fun blessing of the grapes ceremony to get us started. So that wine is currently barrel fermenting in our courtyard. And so now if you are local or you're planning on coming our way, we would love to see you here. It's a really, really exciting time. You can see the forklift is staged, it's ready to go. And we're also really working to meet you all more ways like this, whether it's virtually or in person. We got to meet a lot of really amazing members on our inaugural KB cruise this summer that Julien and I got to do. So if any of you are on the call, it was so amazing to be with you this summer, and we're looking, we definitely want to do that again. We're finding ways. So we also love to hear that you want to see us where you are. So here again, please reach out to us, email, phone. We love to hear from you. We love to hear where you want to see us. When we're on the road, we will let you know. We were planning to be on the road a little bit more. So we're hoping to meet you out in the world as well. But I think, Julien, to kind of close us out in these last few minutes, it's 2025? We got our first fruit. How's it looking?
Gotta always look ahead, look
Yeah.
back, look forward. 2025. So it's been a really excellent growing season. It's been a cool growing season. In terms of what we look at from a data perspective, the degree days is kind of like the most common and traditional way of looking at the growing season. Um, it's been like a little bit warmer than 2023. But what makes it interesting and why degree days isn't necessarily the best mechanism to measure the climate, the weather, is that while it's been really cool, it's been quite sunny. So we've been getting a lot of sun, but it's been kind of windy, and it's just been cool all year round. Like for all the folks that have pools in Sebastopol and and Forestville, like I don't know how much pool time there's been this year, without kind of shivering through things. But it's been sunny, so the grapes are maturing, slower, but not at a snail's pace. So by all accounts, it's shaping up to be an excellent vintage. We did just pick our first vineyard yesterday, El Diablo Chardonnay. We blessed the grapes. We did the whole thing. We pressed it. We barreled it down. It's outside. It's warming up in the sun. Native fermentations. We bring it out into the courtyard where it's full sun, solar energy to heat up the juice, wake up the yeast, and off to the races it goes. So we're going to be picking our first Pinot maybe a week from now, but possibly first week of September, no later than the first week of September. But I mean, everything's looking really good up and down the state. I think 25 is going to be a great vintage. So time will tell. We'll have to see how well the team and I do. But I don't see why it won't be another fantastic vintage.
Love
So
that.
it's a lot of fun. Yeah, we got the whole team here, I always recruit. I'm always recruiting. We got the full intern squad here. We got a great team,
We do.
fantastic team. Everyone's just the buzz on the team is fantastic right now. And we have 5 or 6 internationals. We got French guys, French people, Italians, Australians, Taiwanese. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. We have Colombian, Mexican, American. It's awesome. It's a cool group,
It's a really
great
cool
vibe. And to Paige's point, please come see us. This is the best time to come. September, October. The energy is just like intoxicating. We know you get a real close look at everything. We have the best hospitality team, and you'll be putting your hands in freshly picked fruit, putting your heads into fermenters and giving it a good smell. If we're draining a tank, sticking a pitcher into it and tasting the wine right out of the tank, nothing better. It's great place to visit. So please come by.
Oh, and we just see someone said thank you for doing this on my birthday. Happy birthday. I can't, it's Bob and Kristen. So whichever one of you it's birthday it is, happy birthday. So glad you joined us. And we have 3 minutes left, Julien. Anything to say in the last 3 minutes? We love doing this. It seems like you guys do too. So I think you can plan to see us before the Burgundy release. So that would be in about a month, 6 weeks-ish, I guess. That seems wild to say, but end of September. And so we'll talk more about that program with you then. And
okay, so quickly on Burgundy, where do we source all the grapes from? We get them from where
the 1 minute answer,
the label says. But every year it's always a little different. And the vineyards, we have a couple vineyards that are consistent. We have a couple sources that are consistent, but every year we're very opportunistic. And then the one thing, we didn't really touch on too much the Treehouse, the last wine that we're tasting. We have our 2019 Treehouse. It's going to be in the release for some of y'all. If you have it, access to it, I recommend it. I personally, it's always hard to call this out, but Treehouse is the most remarkable wine we make, in my opinion. The vineyard is sensational. It's in a knoll. It's on the top of this beautiful ridgeline in Forestville, Sebastopol. There's just something magical about the place, and the wines are the most extraordinary. Hands down, the best vineyard I've ever worked with anywhere in the world. And so it's out there. Treehouse Vineyard, Russian River Valley. Get it.
It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
I think you described it as a layered samurai sword. Was
I
that
did.
what
Yeah.
I said? If you don't know how a samurai sword is made, it's very technical. There are a lot of layers,
Yeah.
but
Look out for that
we
one.
have to tease you a little bit.
I deserve it.
Yeah.
More than anybody.
Well, I hope you totally have fun. We would love to see you here and once again in person. Yes, Treehouse does rock, John. Thank you.
All right.
And I don't know when it's going to close us out, but I'm assuming it's very shortly. So cheers. Thank you for joining us today.
Cheers.
And we'll speak with you soon.
Thank you so much, everybody. Take care.